Are you here? Yes, I know you are. It's the Paul Leslie Hour, with a review of the film Sound of Freedom, directed by Alejandro Monteverdi, starring Jim Caviezel. Let's listen together.
Is there any way to make a film or book more appealing than a coordinated effort to discredit it? Maybe it's the way I'm wired, but my suspicion that Sound of Freedom might be a great movie, or even an important one, was perhaps heightened by some downright bizarre articles and reviews attacking it. Sound of Freedom is based on Tim Ballard's work investigating, tracking, and apprehending child traffickers. Formerly a government agent, Ballard is an activist who started Operation Underground, an anti-human trafficking organization. Tim Ballard is played by Jim Caviezel, most known for playing Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. Could there be a more disheartening or uncomfortable subject than human trafficking and pedophilia? I can't think of anything that disturbs me more than exploitation of the young, old, or vulnerable. A part of being a virtuous person means confronting the realities of the world. So much of that is darker than your imagination can fathom. So after trying several times to see Sound of Freedom, it was finally possible on an early Wednesday evening. I knew just a little about Tim Ballard, having listened to him in interviews. I knew he had risked plenty in order to carry out his work. I was also aware of how human trafficking was not some relic of the past. It remains a disgusting industry that many know little about. I can somewhat sympathize with anyone who doesn't want to confront something that distasteful and soul-crushing. What I didn't quite expect was how effectively the filmmakers were able to paint such a personal picture. The movie gives the victims of human trafficking a name and face, both the kidnapped children and their families. Jim Caviezel's acting is worthy of praise. I was enthralled at his ability to convey so much soul and emotion with his face, in particular his eyes. I'm certain this movie was a difficult one to make. How do you tell a compelling story of something so tragic that goes on everywhere while preventing the viewer from sinking into hopelessness? It manages to not only provide suspense and an elaborate plot, but deliver encouragement and inspiration. We can hardly fight malevolence and depravity without knowing of its existence. The movie does this while giving a cathartic release, but there's no false solace that you've just watched a horrific tale disconnected from the real world. What perhaps seems as disturbing as the subject of this film is how anyone can undermine its message. The movie never claims to be an exact account scene for scene. It is, after all, a movie, but some of the criticisms seemed downright bizarre. Rolling Stone ran a thinly veiled hit piece. It seemed more concerned with scrutinizing who Tim Ballard or Jim Caviezel may or may not have voted for than the quality of the film, which I should specify was high. The writer, Miles Klee, even mocks the audience of the film in a transparent and reductive attempt to divide people into one of two groups. If you must, it's Team Ballard or Team Epstein. Take your pick. Miles Klee even criticized Caviezel for, quote, either crying or staring with bloodshot eyes as he attempts to convey the scale and weight of the tragedy around him. What? Seems about right to me. It's telling that Klee is puzzled that a man heroically facing such horrors would be thus affected. The Washington Post took similar shots, again trying to somehow make the movie partisan, even mentioning QAnon, whatever that is, in the title of the review. Bewildering? Yes. Seeing what singer-songwriter Jewel pointed out on social media provided some relief. Quite simply, she pointed out that awareness of human trafficking and pedophilia, and serious action to combat these things, is something every decent person should be on board with. I recommend Sound of Freedom. You're encouraged to see it in the theater and bring a friend. The only way we can begin to extinguish these horrendous realities is by shining a light on them.